Hello there, you're watching the polls on the JoyNews channel, DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. I am blessed Sogah, and coming up this afternoon on the polls, pre-tertiary education grinds to a halt as 3 teacher unions withdraw their services over the failure of President Akufo-Addo to revoke the appointment of Dr. Nkansa as Acting Director General of the Ghana Education Service.
It was from this background that we made our reaction known on the dismissal of the Director General of the Ghana Education Service and subsequent appointment of a banker as an acting Director General, contrary to the substantive and procedural rules of our collective.
We'll get the latest concern from the teacher unions. Meanwhile, the embattled appointee says he is willing to work together with all stakeholders to improve the teaching sector.
That we are coming to work together to ensuring that at the end of the day we achieve this kind of outcome. But I also know that in achieving such an outcome, you would need to, as a matter of urgency, create enabling environment for the teacher.
And also this afternoon, we are looking up to the Kumipreko demonstration. This afternoon, the leadership of the group is raising fears of a possible infiltration by unknown persons targeted at causing mayhem tomorrow. However, leadership of the group says it will not back down on its demand for President Akufo-Addo to leave office.
Yeah, as at now in Ghana, the situation is so dire that the best thing is for President Akufo-Addo to take responsibility and to resign with his Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
We'll hear from Martin People and the rest of the team. The economy is biting hard as Member of Parliament for the Sogah constituency, Thomas Sampim-Nyako, is indicating that Parliament must consider sitting for only 2 days in a week to allow MPs save money in the wake of escalating fuel prices. We'll get you the very latest. This is JoyNews, independent, fearless and credible journalism. The poll, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, Affordable Safe Sanitation. Don't forget that we're also streaming live on YouTube, and all of our social media handles is at JoyNews on TV. Thanks for staying with us. I'm blessed Sogah, and we'll get you the details shortly. And this afternoon, we start off with some agitation on the teacher front as 3 teacher unions in the pre-tertiary education sector, namely the Ghana National Association of Teachers, National Graduate Teachers Association of Ghana, and the Coalition of Concerned Teachers, have all declared an indefinite strike effective today, November 4, 2022, in response to the appointment of Dr. Eric Nkansa as Director General of the Ghana Education Service. According to the group, the appointment of Dr. Nkansa, who they describe as a banker, goes contrary to the collective agreement signed between teacher unions and the Ghana Education Service. NAT President Isaac Owusu has been addressing a news conference to announce the decision of the group.
From this background, that we made our reaction known on the dismissal of the Director General of the Ghana Education Service and subsequent appointment of a banker as an acting Director General, contrary to the substantive and procedural rules of our collective agreement, which was signed in 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, it must be stated that the Director General position is the preserve of educationists and has been occupied by educationists since its creation in the 1974 to date. Therefore, the appointment of a banker instead of educationists is a manifestation of lack of confidence in teachers and to manage their own affairs and disregard the establishment scheme of service and progression within the Ghana Education Service. The teacher unions did not only register their protest, but also found it unacceptable for a banker to be appointed as a Director General of the Ghana Education Service. Instead of educationists, at a time when many teachers who did the same courses and related ones were rejected by GES because it is not related to education. we stated that both the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service should apologize to teachers for accepting the very qualification they rejected when teachers presented them. Contract extension. We stated our opposition to the said contract extension and thereby sounded note of caution that we will vehemently and vigorously resist any attempt to bring Mr. Anthony Boateng back into the system, and that the consequences of any such attempt may be too dire to handle. We finally caution that should government fail to heed our call, leadership of the teacher unions will not be able to control the actions and inactions of their members, and the Ministry of Education and GES may have themselves to blame in the final analysis. We have been compelled, under the current circumstances, to publicly communicate to Ghanaians on our intention to go on strike, having reached the November 4th deadline we gave the government. Consequently, we have decided to embark on strike from today, Friday, 4th November 2022. By this, we are informing the general public that we are withdrawing all our services in all the pre-tertiary education institutions.
Well, so that's the demand by the teacher unions. Exactly what is government doing about the demands, and will Dr. Eric Nkansa's appointment be reversed? Joining me via Zoom now is a spokesperson for the Education Ministry. Mr. Kwesi Kwasi is joining us via Zoom. Thank you, sir, for your time here on The Pulse. So it's clear that, of course, you did not heed to the demands earlier when they were made. You're giving out an ultimatum of November 4. That was the timeline given by the teacher unions. Now they are acting in accordance to the earlier notice they served. What is the ministry intending to do to try and calm nerves, or perhaps revoke the appointment of Dr. Eric Nkansa? And you'd have to unmute for me so I can hear the points you're making, sir. If you can hear me, Mr. Kwaching, I was just asking about what the ministry is doing now, knowing that indeed the teachers are very much concerned about the appointment of Dr. Nkansa, and what do you intend to do to resolve the crisis?
Okay. All right. A very good afternoon to you. Are you able to repeat your question?
Yes, I was just asking what I mean, concretely, what you're going to do to resolve this crisis.
You are referring to the declared strike.
Precisely.
Okay. We've had a very long meeting with the leadership of the unions. What I can say to you and the public is that everybody should remain calm. We are very hopeful that we are going to get to the end of this. We are very optimistic that by the close of the meeting, we should find a common consensus or common ground, and hopefully we should see this whole impasse come to an end. Hopefully by the close of the day when the meeting is done.
Yeah, and what would that result in? Because the demand is key. It's quite straightforward, isn't it? The group says revoke the appointment, we'll be back in the classrooms.
That's why I'm saying that I am not going to prejudice the meeting that is ongoing. It is based on this same consensus that has called for this very important meeting. Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, they are mediating between the two parties. The Ministry of Education is heavily represented by the ministers themselves. We also have the union leadership all present. The meeting is ongoing. What I can say is that it is very hopeful, it's very assuring. The unions have been very collaborative. We are very much appreciative to them. And I can say that at the end of the tunnel, it looks very bright.
Yeah, bright for the ministry or for the teachers?
Ultimately, at the end of the day, we believe that the appointment is made by the president.
I mean, Kwesi, you're being diplomatic in this sense, isn't it? The future is bright. You were clear on that. Bright for who? The teachers or the ministry?
I obviously have to be. I obviously have to be, especially when the meeting is ongoing, and I do not want to prejudice what they are saying. But of course, ultimately, our position was very clear. I mean, it's not something I'm gonna have to rehash or retreat. Our position was very clear. If you look at the appointment of the GES boss, obviously there is a framework that defines that. Our unions, the leadership knows better than myself. Of course, I mean, they did not like the appointment. Ultimately, the Ministry of Employment came in. We are speaking to the unions. We are speaking to the leadership. And I can assure you that our conversation or our engagement is far advanced. It is very possible that we'll be hearing very good news at the end of the meeting. Hopefully, I'll break the news to you, but it's very fruitful. There's been some long advanced conversation that we've been having. And then the assurance we have is that the unions are very cooperating and very collaborative.
Some members of parliament have been writing about this. I will bring some of their concerns up shortly, including your former boss, the former PR for the Ministry of Education, who is now serving on the Education Committee in Parliament. I'm talking about Vincent Assefuah. He's put up some concerns, even questioning the propriety of the appointment of Dr. Nkansa. Probably it's a good time to bring that up. But whilst we're at that, I also want to of course, get your thoughts on the issue that, first of all, the ministry is to blame for what's happening today. The fact that you did not act knowing very well that by November 4, the concerns of the teachers would have gotten to the stage. But before you address that, here's the post by Vincent Assefuah, who's obviously MP for Tafo and now serving on the Education Committee. He says, and it comes under the broad umbrella of the teacher unions embarking on a strike over the dismissal of the GES boss. And I'm quoting here, when you have an ill-conceived, selfish, and baseless recommendation emanating from the Ministry of Education to the presidency to relieve an educationist at the helm of affairs and bring in an alien, and we're not too sure, but if we're to interpret this, it may be referring to Dr. Nkansa, to the industry. This is what happens. Our democracy is growing. As a member of the Education Committee in Parliament, the recommendation from the Ministry of Education to the presidency is not only untenable, but also unreasonable and backward. Very strong words there, signed by Vincent Assefuah. I mean, this is someone you know very well. You've worked closely with him. It appears that you've not done a good job. You've not done a good job. You agree?
Ekwa is my friend. When he posted that, I'm sure I was the first person who called him, and I was very surprised that it came from him. If you look at the thrust of the argument that he's making, and for me, I believe that we should engage issues rather than being emotional and sentimental about it. First of all, his argument is largely based on the fact that Dr. Eric Nkansa, who is the newly appointed Director General of Education, Ghana Education Service, is a non-educationist. I don't get the basis of the non-educationist, especially when the GES office is not going to teach, it's not a classroom, but he's going to manage an administrative office. Granted, without even admitting that we are to go by the whole point about education background. Ekwa became a spokesperson for a whole education ministry.
Just hold on. This is the head. I mean, just hold on for me. This is going to be the head of the Ghana Education Service. It goes beyond just the administrative structures. You agree that for someone to
will you allow me to land? You be fair. Be fair to me. Allow me to land.
Right.
When I land, at least when I land, we can introduce something.
Yes, but I'm taking you on the point you're making. You were making the point. You were making the point that his job was going to be largely
I did not even land. I did not even land.
Right.
No, I did not even land.
Okay, go ahead.
So if I was to land, first of all, the point that I was making is that if you look at the Ghana Education Service, it is purely an administrative office, not necessarily a classroom. Beyond that, I am supporting that point with the fact that if you look at Dr. Eric Nkansa, for instance, if you want to construe an educationist probably to be somebody who I've taught before, he has 14 years teaching experience, even more than that. Somebody who taught within the SHS or pre-tertiary space for 6 years, taught in the university for 8 years, have been a director of tertiary for almost 2 years, cumulatively 16 years. You are saying that such a person have no knowledge in education, and that you have to be, how do you call it, be in the training college before you can be described as educationist or having an education. I mean, I don't get it. Again, this call is coming from somebody like my good brother Ekwasefua. Ekwasefua was not an educationist. Yes, he became the spokesperson of an education ministry. The former Minister for Education, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Pempe, I believe he's been one of the fantastic ministers that this ministry have ever had. I mean, he was a medical doctor, but he performed so well. Ekwa himself today, as I speak to you, is a member of the Education Committee of Parliament. I mean, somebody who never had an education background today representing a whole constituent and the entire nation on the Education Committee of Parliament, making policies of education. Yet still he's able to function. So for me, it's really not about whether or not you have that detailed background in it. In any administrative office, especially if you are willing to work with the technical people, the other people who are there, I'm sure you should be able to succeed. In any event, Dr. Eric Nkansa have taught for the past 14 years, have also been director of education, especially even if you want to juxtapose or couple that with his financial background. At a time, a crucial time where we have cash flow challenges, we hear issues about food shortages within the pre-tertiary space. Don't you think that it would have been an added advantage to have somebody with a bit of finance background in addition to his more teaching experience and having been in the classroom? I really don't get where this whole logic about he's not an educationist. Indeed, if we are to sustain this whole argument about whether or not an educationist should be the GES boss, why are they also opposing the how do you call it, the extension of lawyer Anthony Boati, who also have probably all the experience that they are talking about? For a post statement, I'll pardon him because I mean, even the same standard he sets, he himself betrays and defies those standards himself. But for us, what is most important is that we are engaging the teacher unions. We are very hopeful that we'll get them to at least come to the level that the ministry we are. And that I can assure you that by the close of the day, we should get something very substantial and very fruitful after the end of the meeting.
Expand the conversation.
Is our focus.
Right.
We do not feel that.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
sir.
we do. We do not feel that. We do not feel that by virtue of one person's employment, we should just watch for about 350,000 teachers not to work. In any event, if they refer to teachers and this whole doctrine about somebody being educated, what also happens to the non-teaching staff within the Ghana Education Service space? Will their concern not also be heard? What about TEU? Will their concern not be heard? Today, the Education Committee of Parliament, the committee that Ekwasefua serves on. I mean, remember just about 3 days ago, they came to meet the Director General, Dr. Eric Nkansa, congratulated him and even pledged to work with him. So for me, I find the Ekwas comment not only as a betrayal to the Education Committee of Parliament, but also, I mean, kind of some disrespect to the President of the land who made this appointment. And I feel that it shouldn't be coming from a person who became a beneficiary of the whole system or the whole governmental arrangement, right. Especially when he himself did not have an education background, but became one of the successful PROs and also now serves on the Education Committee. I'm not sure the same standard we set for others, when it comes to us, we should not apply the same standards. It's not fair.
And Kwesi, I'll be coming back to you. Let's expand the conversation at least. Let's bring in some other stakeholders. Joining us now is Peter Pate, works with, of course, he's the Executive Director for IFEST, the Institute for Education Studies. Thank you for joining the conversation. So you've had the direct response coming through from the Education Ministry. Looking at the negotiations taking place right now, what kind of a posture would you want to see from the Education Ministry, given that all of these 3 teacher unions are withdrawing their services? By Monday, the classrooms may be empty.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to Kwesi. I think that the ministry should tone down a little and find ways and means to reach out to the teacher unions. I know there's a meeting going on today, which I think is very unfortunate. I was thinking that this meeting should have been held earlier on than today, but fine. That is what they want to do. But ideally, I would have wished that this meeting would have happened maybe Monday, Tuesday, before the deadline that has been given. And that is why that is why you have the letter in the media now. They asking that they are laying down their tools and they are going on a strike. If this meeting was held on Monday, Tuesday, thereabouts, I think we wouldn't be having this press release in the system. So maybe this time they should be proactive when such issues comes up.
Okay, but now let's weigh the exact demands, the demands that are being raised right now. The fact that you have 3 unions, these are the key players in the pre-tertiary space, not especially declaring strike over the appointment of just one individual. If you look at the scope of the activities, I'm not sure that directly speaking, NAT has anything to do with who becomes the Director General of the Ghana Education Service, and yet they believe that by having just this single individual at the helm of affairs, they're not working.
Yeah, I think I know my brother Kwesi knows that the issues that necessitated or brought up all these are issues that might not be put in the public domain. And the teacher unions are very aware of the issues that have led to where we are now. And I think that is why they are taking the decision that they are taking. It should interest you, as you read their statement, and as Kwesi have also alluded to, that they are not even talking only about the DG, they're also talking about the return of another retired deputy director general.
That's also part of the demands they're making.
Yeah, you can read the letter.
Right.
They just So that tells you that there's something really going on within the education system that we cannot put out. But I think maybe at the appropriate time, everything will come out to the public domain. So these demands that are coming from the teacher unions are demands that have been boiled up for a considerable period of time. You remember somewhere in May, June, I first released a statement talking about the seemingly disagreement between the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service. So it's been something that has been piling up, and it has led to certain decisions that have been taken. And I think that the teacher unions, they understand the processes of appointing a DG. The ministry understands the processes of appointing a DG. If there's been any break of rule, I think they know what to do. If I wouldn't take it away from them, the fact that they also have a say in who leads their service, and that is something that you cannot take away from them.
Okay.
So they can push for whatever it is that they want to happen. But I'm saying that there are undertones that are leading to all these things, and it might be difficult, if not impossible, for.
Hello, Peter. Okay, we've lost Peter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes,
solve
Peter.
This challenge.
Right, Peter.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you briefly. Okay, so let's get to it
Yeah.
then. Just before I get back to Kwesi Kwarteng, let's deal with the possibility of a direct impact on the pre-tertiary space. What could that be?
It's going to be damning. Of course, you know that after COVID, we've been trying to rearrange our academic calendar in such a way that we will have some of the things that the students have lost. There will be a catch-up. Recent data seems to suggest that there has been a lot of learning loss in our basic schools. So it is going to be very damning. And that is why, for me, I think that the ministry should not have waited till today for that meeting to occur, because the teacher unions were clear that if by this day the appointment is not revoked, which I also think that the ministry is not ready to do, and that is a fact that's been demonstrated by the appointing authority. So they should have been proactive with the teacher unions and engage them, because their position is known. The minister said publicly, has explained the background of the person they have appointed and all that.
Right.
So it's clear that they are not going to back on the decisions that they've taken.
Okay.
So the only move now is to get the teacher unions to understand and accept the person who is coming to head the education service, and then find ways and means to work with him. And I think this move should have started earlier on than today, because whether we like it or not, the letter is out. The meeting might happen, but we don't know by Monday. We don't know what is going to happen. Our case in schools are those who are going to suffer.
And in fact, this is running all the way up to the tertiary level. That's another conversation for another day. But just hold on for me. Let's bring back Kwesi Kwarteng at this point. And just before we hear from you, Mr. Kwarteng, I want us all to listen to the new GES boss. At least he's made some public statements as to what we should be expecting from him going forward. He says that he's asking all stakeholders to work with him in spite of the differences. So here's Dr. Eric Nkansa just days ago before this latest development.
Thank the President of the Republic, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, for appointing me to act in this position as the Director General of GES. I would rather not have said much, as we have had all the discussions behind closed doors. I just want to let you know, as teachers, that I have come for you. The President of the land has already created the vision for Ghana in terms of education. The President of the land, through the Ministry of Education, is currently pursuing lots of reforms, all of it coming together to making sure that we create the 21st century learner. In other words, to making sure that we create learners who are imbibed with the critical thinking, who are imbibed with all the skills that one needs to survive within the 21st century skills, within the 21st century. Beyond that, we have been saying, and here it's not just saying, the vision of the President is that the transition rate between the secondary school and the tertiary space, where you have just about 33% of our youth progressing to the tertiary level, it's something that should be a thing of the past. We should not be happy with that. We should push and making sure that at least, if not for anything at all, about 70% of our learners move on to the tertiary level. So that is the charge that has been put before us. And I say us because you are all my colleagues, that we are coming to work together to ensuring that at the end of the day, we achieve this kind of outcome. But I also know that in achieving such an outcome, you would need to, as a matter of urgency, create enabling environment for the teacher. You would need, as a matter of urgency, create an enabling environment also for the Ghanaian child, the learner. So coming into office, I am actually clear in my mind that the teachers' welfare needs to be attended to.
Okay, so that's Dr. Eric Nkansa. Let me come back to you, Kwesi Kwarteng, as we wrap up, and then I'll get to Peter later on. Going forward, what's your expectation about the new acting boss, if indeed he survives the negotiations? Of course, days ago he was giving us a sense of what he intends to do, but I'm just wondering what the ministerial task is to Dr. Nkansa, particularly looking at what it is that the presidency issued about the immediate past GES director. You indicated that the services and skills were no longer required. Okay, that appears we've lost Kwesi Kwarteng there. But of course, Peter, let's wrap up with you. The point about the skills of Professor, the previous professor was in charge of the Ghana Education Service. The presidency indicating clearly that his skills were no longer needed at the GES, and now we have a new boss who's giving us a sense of where we may be going to. What's your, assessment of what he has told us and what we are to expect from him if indeed he survives the negotiations?
This is my first time of listening to this audio, this interview from the new acting DG. I think he's laid out his vision and focus for the office that he's going to occupy. I just wish him well and hope that in case he survives this agitation from the teacher unions, he'll be able to help build a better education system for our beloved country.
Anyway, Peter, we'll leave it here for now and await the outcome of the negotiations. We know that at the tertiary level as well, there's a lot of fire there. So busy weekend for the Education Minister, Dr. Educhum. But Nana must go. And guess what? That's the resolve of the private legal practitioner, Martin Pebu, as he announces that all is set for the massive protest dubbed Kumipreko Reloaded. It's happening in the next 24 hours. The outspoken critic of President Akufo-Addo says the wanton corruption and mismanagement gives a clear indication that Ghanaians can no longer wait until the end of the 4-year term of President Akufo-Addo. Lawyer Martin Pebu says that after tomorrow's protest, the president, together with his vice president, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, ought to leave office immediately to pave way for the constitutional provisions for his replacement to set in motion.
Reckless borrowing and other forms of misgovernance by President Akufo-Addo. We are dying. Citizens are dying. Citizens can't afford food. Citizens are starving, all because of malgovernance by President Akufo-Addo. It's never happened that you have a president in office and every time that the country borrows, the president's family becomes richer. How? Every time the country borrows, the president's family becomes richer. How? This can't continue. It's not, Ghana doesn't belong to President Akufo-Addo's family. We can't borrow all the time and have data bank becoming richer all the time. The country becomes poorer and data bank becomes richer. This, without more, is sufficient for President Akufo-Addo to resign. You see how the incentive to borrow, because his family will become richer, has led us to overborrow, and today our cedi has totally collapsed. That now, when you need $1, you need at least 14 Ghana cedis. When at the beginning of the year, $1 was just 6 cedis, 40 pesos. This has never happened. And so to that extent, based on Article 35 of our Constitution, which asks for probity, accountability, etc., which are also repeated in the preamble of the Constitution, citizens have a duty, as stated in Article 41, to ask the president to resign. And this is not the first time that a president of Ghana is going to resign. In natural fact, in the 60s, Lieutenant General Ankara resigned over a matter of 6,000 Ghana cedis that he's alleged to have used to bribe somebody organizing an opinion poll so that he can be declared as the most popular person in Ghana. You say, so ladies and gentlemen, where we are as at now in Ghana, the situation is so dire that the best thing is for President Akufo-Addo to take responsibility and to resign with his vice president, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Indeed, the Constitution has envisaged such a situation. That's why it's provided in Article 66 that the president may resign from office. The vice president may resign as well. So Article 66 says that the president has to just simply give his resignation to the Speaker of Parliament. And so that's the same thing Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia will do. The phantom economic wastegate, right? And Article 60, Clause 13 makes it clear that when the president and the vice are gone, the Speaker must take office for only 3 months. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, for only 3 months. And within that 3 months, the Electoral Commission must organize fresh elections. So it means that we'll have a new president within the 3 months. That's to say that today, 4th November, if President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia were to resign, It means that latest by 4th of February, a new president will be sworn in. So we would have had the elections and a new president sworn in. And look, people of Ghana, please, let's not despair. Let's go for it. Let Akufo-Addo and Bawumia resign. Look, you'll be amazed at how the international community will welcome this new development. That our democracy would have been strengthened. That the president would have listened to the cry of the masses and resigned. And as a result of this, you'll be amazed at how much goodwill we will gain. Our debt, the new president can renegotiate for extension and all the other things that it will require. Trust me, when such a momentous event occurs.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is also important to note that it is not in our interest to have this protest getting marred by violence, because in the end, it would divert opinions from the main crux of the matter to the violence.
Except from the press address there. Let me bring in Adib Sani, who you just saw in the shots there. And Adib, you were making some claims at the news conference earlier today that your group has intelligence that there may be infiltration targeted at causing mayhem when the protest takes off tomorrow. What evidence do you have to that effect?
Well, it is an intelligence. It is information we're picking up, and the fact that I spoke about it only seeks to educate whoever is coming to the protest grounds to be on the lookout. We need to obey the rules. We need to follow the protocols. And if you see any individual causing trouble, then definitely the person is not part of us and should be handed over to the appropriate authorities. In the past, during demonstrations such as the one organized by Arise Ghana, there were allegations that, yes, indeed, there were certain individuals who were not supposed to be part of the protest, but were there to cause trouble. So the narrative would turn against the reason they were there in the first place. Yeah. So this is just a word of caution.
You're still talking about allegations here. I'm asking for concrete evidence pointing to your claims.
Well, Sogah, it will be impossible for me to provide that evidence on TV. Like I indicated, it is an intelligence we've picked up. As simple as that. But I cannot, within this material moment, present to you the evidence. But surely it is something that we are looking to, and I'm hoping that in the end we wouldn't have issues whatsoever.
And obviously, looking at your call, you are asking the president to resign after tomorrow's protest. The belief is, given what you are asking for, you may further radicalize the youth against authority.
Well, we are a country that is governed by the rule of law. Our democracy is entrenched. We are one of the most peaceful countries in Africa. There are a lot of issues, a plethora of economic issues. And if we are going to go by what the ordinary Ghanaian is going through today, if we were not peaceful, we would have had people in the streets causing trouble. But in line with our democratic rights, we feel that no, instead of having people in the streets perpetrating all sorts of crimes in the name of economic mismanagement or in the name of the fact that they are suffering, why don't we protest peacefully and get politicians to understand that we hire them and we can fire them? Get politicians to understand that they have no power from nowhere because we give them the power, very consistent with the definition of democracy: rule for the people, by the people, and for the people. And we have to take that into consideration. So this is just a representation of the voices of the people. We need to stop bickering and come out and demonstrate our frustration over what is going on, rather than sit on the fence, fold our arms, and turn a blind eye to what's going on.
You're a security analyst, and you're quite aware and conversant with what's happening elsewhere, even in our sub-region, neighboring Burkina Faso as well, and other countries experiencing turmoil. The belief is that you should be using a more diplomatic approach in asking the president to do what you're simply asking him to do: pack out of office.
There's nothing diplomatic as what we intend doing tomorrow. It's a protest. It's within our democratic rights. We went through all the protocols. We went through what is enshrined in the Public Order Act, giving the police 5 days clear notice. The police has gotten back to us. We've agreed in principle what route to use, what time to gather. And we are appealing to whoever is coming to be very peaceful. And at the news conference, I also stated that we don't want anyone to come there with an offensive weapon, whether it is a sharp instrument or a pointed instrument or even a gun. Nobody is supposed to bear a gun, okay, or bear arms, all right? So I think this is the most peaceful, most democratic way of getting politicians to understand that the people are angry. You sit in the trotros, you sit in the taxes, the level of frustration, the kind of things people say. So when we come out to even demonstrate in the first place and get it off our chest, it's a way of calming us down. But when people are complaining and they are angry about what is going on and you gag them, then you are creating an explosive charge, which can blow up in your face and you wouldn't like what it will come with. And a clear case in point is the Arab Spring. Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, where their rulers were very hard-fisted. What happened? Okay, so let the people
but
express their frustration.
Your leadership doesn't seem to be learning the lessons, are they? Because you look at the artwork, for instance, for tomorrow's demonstration, you're leveraging on the death of an individual here in the country who says he's fed up with the economic crisis. That sounds similar events were in the Arab Spring. So you should be learning much more and picking up lessons to say, well, let's tone down on our rhetoric.
Okay, so the Arab Spring, like you rightly mentioned, was started by a street seller who was being removed. But he said, hey, this is my only source of income. So he decided to douse himself in an accelerant and bent himself, and that's what started the Arab Spring, okay? And already, people are suffering but cannot complain. So they've built it up in themselves. But the fact that we are coming out to express our frustration is enough to calm people's nerves and to get people to understand that, yes, indeed, they wield the power. But once they are complaining and they are suffering and you stop them from talking, it becomes a bit of a problem. But what we seek to achieve, okay, is to represent the voices of Ghanaians. I've received countless calls from other parts of the country. They are willing to be part. They are asking that we devolve it so all regions can take part in the demonstration concurrently. So if nothing is done about our demands, we intend petitioning Parliament, which is also very in line with our democratic tenets, to start impeachment proceedings. Okay, and we also intend expanding the scope to other parts of the country. But one thing is for sure, it is through peaceful means. Right, it is an absolute no to violence.
Adib Sani, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow at the demonstration. Of course, let's check out what Ghanaians think about the economy. Many of them say they can no longer afford the now expensive transport fares and are not and they are actually making part of their journey on foot. That's the latest we're getting, because transport fares have been increasing in some threefold, and of course we've seen that consecutively over the days in response to the high fuel cost, spare parts and general hardship in the country. Some terminals, of course, we've seen passengers who are not willing to use them. There's more in the following report.
From January 2022 till date, transport fares have been increasing almost every quarter. So has the margins been for petroleum products. This has not enthused motorists and commuters who say they are at their wits' end.
Madam, we told unit, we to banker, light bill, water. It is a mayor Jumana, me didn't have a thought this idea. That's mean Jumano. I mean pay like private Juma being here. Like by this time, I mean call like 3.5, 4.
According to him, he's been in this business for the past 40 years. He has never for once seen this astronomical increase in transport fares for the past 40 years that he's been working. He also says that by this time of the day, he would have at least gone to Wireless and back to Circle at least 2 or 3 times. But at the same time today, he's just gone once and he's still in his vehicle. No one is coming to sit in, no passenger. Why? Because he says now the passengers are walking. When I asked him what he thinks that government can do to support them, he says he thinks government can actually do nothing, because if government could have done something, government could have done it by now. He is actually asking Ghanaians to pray, because the way the situation is as at now, he thinks it is only prayer that can solve it. Otubia, a father of 3 who drives a Volvo, says he cannot afford to fuel his vehicle any longer and has therefore resorted to using public transport, which he thinks is relatively cheaper.
Normally I drive cars, but because of the fuel prices, I have to come into the trotro. And even now on the trotro, it's not an easy affair at all.
How much did you have to now spend on fuel that you have to pack?
Depending, but look, I have children, younger children, and I can spend 200-300 cedis a day around Accra when my children have to eat. I can't even provide for them adequately. So it's a very difficult life.
Some persons who already have been patronizing public transport say they now have to trek half of the journey.
Oh, it's really affecting, because when you take 20 cedis for only transport a day, it's too much.
At the heart of this is bus conductors who have had to bear the brunt of passengers. One of them, Richard, says he's received several insults from passengers due to the fares.
Oh, she said the obi of Fugo patrol, yes, she said I am from patrol Fuka Bimu. Obi was shut up at the G. On to Ganabazar, I made a Makuma.
These vehicle owners, some of whom say they've been driving for more than 2 decades, say they are considering changing jobs.
Davi, me who be that. And the everybody is also there. Annoying.
For JoyNews, I am Hannah Odami.
Let's stay on the issue of transport fares, because there is a call for an increment in fare charges for online drivers, as recent research reveals that most of these drivers make on the average a loss of 112 Ghana cedis, according to the latest research conducted by Fairwork Ghana in collaboration with GIC and partners. Costs such as fuel, spare parts and poor conditions of service are responsible for the worsening condition of the online drivers. Let me bring through now Dr. Joseph Budu, who's with the team, joining us via Zoom. Thank you so much, sir, for your time here on The Pulse. Let's start off with the need for the increment. What margins will be appropriate to reverse this trend of the worsening conditions of these online drivers?
Thank you very much. Business your viewers. Any rate that is commensurate to the current inflation rate will be okay.
You're saying that they are making on the average a loss of about 112 cedis. But how did you come about that figure?
Okay, so we use an average of 10 trips a day, and if you use an average of 20 Ghana cedis per trip, you would see that the driver will be making 200 Ghana cedis a day. Now, part of this, 20% of this amount goes to the platform. If you take out, there are some drivers whose vehicles are owned by, have car owners, so they have to pay about 75 cedis to their car owner. The driver also has to buy maybe some 10 cedis for data and airtime to make calls to customers. They have to buy fuel. Fuel is about 40% of their income. Now it may go up because of the current prices. And they have to put some aside for maintenance. If you put all this together, you arrive at a loss of 112 cedis a day.
And looking at the time in which we find ourselves, Ghanaians are having to pay also more for transport services. There's also a hike in fuel prices. So if we're to do this, how cautious should we be so as not to collapse the industry? Because mind you, once the prices are going up, a lot more people would want to opt for the alternatives.
Yes, the alternative should also be sustainable. So we just showed a clip of what is happening on the market. What is happening in the digital platform doesn't reflect what's on the market. The platform prices don't reflect the increased fuel prices. So the platforms want to maintain low prices so that consumers can still patronize the platforms, but it doesn't reflect the fuel prices. So if you charge, if a driver is making 200 cedis a day, last week, I think no, on Tuesday, I was going to buy fuel. Half tank cost me 270 Ghana cedis for a 1.6 liter vehicle. And these are the cars, kind of cars they drive. So if he's buying half tank, even lesser than half tank for 270 cedis, and he's earning 200 cedis, the person cannot fuel the tank for it to for them to make the trip. So what we are saying is that they should adjust the prices. The driver doesn't have a say in how much a trip costs, and that is not fair. So adjust the prices to match the market conditions so they can also make ends meet, at least cover their costs.
And there's this poster, correct me if I'm wrong, about the ride-hailing apps. And they have a special contract with each and every individual online driver. So that's how unique the situation is. So you may not necessarily have them responding to these issues en bloc.
Yes, it's unfortunate. So this issue comes to the platforms allowing the drivers to form driver unions. They don't want to recognize the driver unions,
right?
Because not every driver can articulate or make an argument for himself or herself for such increments. So they have to form unions. And when they form the unions, the platforms don't want to recognize them. They treat them as independent contractors. But these are independent contractors who cannot charge for their services. Their charges are imposed on them. So there is this irony in the situation. If they are independent contractors, allow them to submit invoices per contract that you issue to them so that they can charge. But you want to impose your charges on them and even force them to go to places that they don't want to go. You block them and you remove them from your platform when they refuse to go for a certain trip. And that is also an unfair situation.
And so at Fair Work Ghana, what do you intend to do to deal with the concerns?
So at Fair Work Ghana, based on our yearly reports last year and this year, we engage the platforms individually. We show them some good practices that other platforms are currently engaging in, with the hope that our advocacy will encourage them to also mend their ways to be fairer to their own platform workers. So for instance, there was one platform whose contract was signed under Spanish law. Through our negotiations, they have now changed to Ghanaian law. Okay. Another platform, the Black Ride, didn't recognize driver unions. This year in June, they have signed a memorandum of understanding with the driver unions to recognize them and to take their input when they are making any decisions concerning the drivers on the platform. So this is where, and we are also preparing a policy brief to submit to government so that it will guide government in taking legislative decisions concerning this digital platform and their workers.
Okay, but then specifically in your findings, which of the ride-hailing apps are noted for these quote-unquote unfair act that you say they are engaged in?
Okay, so we found two platforms. We have a scoring criteria which is over 10.
Okay.
We have five scoring areas or score areas. We have fair pay.
Right.
This is where we are saying that platforms should be able to ensure that their workers at least earn a living wage or a minimum wage. Then if they can do more, the workers will earn a living wage. Then we talk about fair conditions. This is where we are saying that platforms should be able to protect their workers against the risks of the job. Then we also have fair contracts. That is where we are saying that platforms should give their workers contracts that are easily understandable, so that they don't have to read cumbersome contracts to be able to start working. And then we have fair representation. We are saying that platforms should recognize that workers have a right to form unions, so that when they form unions, they should be recognized. And then fair management, there should be due process if you want to punish or seek redress with any worker. So there are two platforms that scored 5/10 this year. The rest scored 0. The two platforms that scored 5/10 are Global and the Black Ride. The rest of the platforms we scored, which all got 0, are Bolt Food, Phoenix, InDriver, Jumia Food, Swift Wheels, Uber, and Yango.
Are there any other adverse findings beyond just the issue about the charges? Because these drivers for some time have also complained about their security. The fact that you order a service, but they are not aware of where they're heading until the ride is confirmed.
Yes, so where security issue comes under fair conditions, none of the platforms we scored, apart from the Black Ride, was able to provide evidence that when the driver or the worker is on the job, they are secured. It's only Black Ride that has, and through our negotiations, they have now made or opened up the possibility for the driver to know where the customer or the rider is going. Now they have what they call verified drivers and unverified drivers. So the verified riders, these are riders who have registered in the app as customers with their Ghana card. So the driver knows who is actually coming to board and where the person is going. In today's discussion, we had some drivers issuing or expressing some regrets or challenges with having unverified riders, because we don't have any unverified drivers on the platform. So they also do not want any unverified riders, and that is another discussion that we are going to engage in with the Black Ride, to remove all unverified riders. So some are taking action to verify or to solve these security challenges.
Dr. Budu, we're grateful for your time here on The Pulse. And let's stay a bit more on issues relating to fuel prices. Member of Parliament for Esojaman constituency, Thomas Ampim Nyaku, says Parliament must sit for only 2 days in a week to allow MPs save money on the current crashing prices of fuel. MPs currently sit 4 days in a week, but the NDC MP says MPs are struggling to cope with the rising cost of fuel and urged leadership of the House to consider cutting down on the days of seating. He was actually commenting on the business statement for next week. Before we bring you the concerns of the MP, Kweku Asante has been monitoring a lot more happening in the House. Kweku, let's start off with this latest demand. What's the normal or ideal seating period for these MPs?
So Parliament usually do not sit on Mondays, that is as a House, but they do have committee meetings. And if you look at this order paper program for next week, a number of businesses have been scheduled for the various committees of Parliament. And so Parliament will not sit as a plenary on Monday, but the committees will be working. And so that is the idea. But on Tuesdays to Fridays, they sit as a whole. So ordinarily, one would say 4 days. So if your committee does not have work to do on Monday, then you're not coming.
And is the MP giving us a sense of how much it's actually costing him now, having to come to Parliament?
Indeed, he was explaining that he went to a fuel station attendant to fuel, and it cost him 3,000 Ghana cedis to fuel his vehicle. We do not know what specification his vehicle is to have taken 3,000 Ghana cedis to fuel, but that is exactly what he said on the floor. I mean, it ties in with yesterday, Adansia Super MP K.T. Hammond, who also said he went to a fuel attendant and nearly fought because he thought he was being cheated when the prices came. And so MPs are having a certain level of unanimity in terms of complaining about the fuel hikes and the impact it's having on their own personal finances. But this idea that they wanted to sit for just 2 days did not go down well with the majority leader, who is leader of government business. He said that will negatively impact the business of the House and also affect productivity and in the long run the GDP of the nation. So that was absolutely not something that they were willing to consider.
And since you're talking about KT Hammond, it's a good time to also hear from him. But exactly what did he tell you as, reporters in Parliament on how the fuel prices have been affecting his operations?
So KT Hammond said he went out there to a fuel attendant to, fuel his vehicle. And when the bill was brought to him, he was surprised. He actually thought that he was being cheated. He nearly, in his own words, nearly turned into a World War III, as he nearly fought with the fuel station attendant. He said he later checked with one official at the National Petroleum Authority who said that actually the fuel, the prices were even expected to go up even further. And so they all admit that the current crunch is affecting all Ghanaians, including people in high places like MPs.
I guess it's a good time to hear from them.
It's difficult now. My understanding is that all these things have been factored into the present formula now. And yes, we still find ourselves where we are now. Tell you something horrific. A few days ago, I went to the garage, pumped the fuel into the car, and the bloke came up and gave me a bill. It was almost a third world war at the garage, at the station. Why is he giving me this? He said, just yesterday, the price of diesel, the price of super moved to what the price of diesel used to be. Diesel is now 20 whatever. I was about complaining to a colleague in the profession a day after, and he said to me, don't worry about that. It's going to go to 23 this evening. And it's a particularly difficult situation. What is it that led to this? What is to be done? It's a difficult situation. And nobody, I don't particularly envy the lot of those who are really having to juggle. What do we do? Is the what do you call it? Is that the elephant in the room? It's the elephant in the room. Normally you don't mention it, but we are mentioning it. So I'm not sure whether it really is the elephant. But it's a difficult thing. It's not a situation peculiar to only Ghana. It's all over the place. The advanced economies and also advanced economies in Britain keep on whenever these issues come up. Obvious point of first reference of Britain. America, at a point in time, fuel prices were lower than the prices of water. Well, now they're also suffering. It's particularly difficult. You heard about a situation in, what's the name, Sri Lanka, and the redeeming situation it did for those of us in Ghana is that at least we are not in long queues. Producing country in Nigeria and those countries around the area, they're all in some sort of queues. We are not.
So that's KT Hammond. Earlier, my colleague Kwekwe Santi brought through this report, gathering the concerns of MPs on the rising fuel prices.
The fuel prices crisis is biting hard, and politicians are feeling the pinch just like the ordinary Ghanaian. On Thursday, Adamsia Sogah MP KT Hammond said he nearly fought with a fuel station attendant over the prices.
It's difficult now. My understanding is that all these things have been factored into the present formula now. And yes, we still find ourselves where we are now. Tell you something horrific. A few days ago, I went to the garage, pumped the fuel into the car, and the bloke came up and gave me a bill. It was almost a third world war at the garage, at the station. Why is he giving me this?
On Friday, NDC MP for Isujaman Thomas Ampemnyako called on leadership to revise the current number of days for sittings so that MPs can cope with the rising fuel prices.
The activities have like 2 days in a week in order to be able to save on the amount of money we are using for fuel. Because, Mr. Speaker, the day before yesterday, I went to the Gold filling station at Lagos. My light was on, and I asked them to fill my tank. I got down to the shop to buy something. When I came back, 3,000 cedis was my bill. 3,000, Mr. Speaker. I had 2,100. I had to call my colleague, Honorable Jaja, to send me money through the Momo that I'm avoiding to use before I was able to pay my bill.
The majority leader, said Chairman Sabonso, was not pleased with this suggestion. He was outright. This was not a position he will consider due to the impact on productivity.
When we are in dire circumstances, that is when we are called upon to increase productivity. And for a member of parliament to say that we should work in just 2 days in a week, the Speaker, that is a very apocalyptic declaration from the member of parliament. What will be the effect on national productivity, this call that you are making? And what will be the effect on GDP? I think that really is an unfortunate call on us.
The reaction on the floor after that MP made the proposition that MPs should be sitting twice in a week seemed to have garnered some support from MPs. Now that the majority leader has shut down the proposition, Ghanaians will be looking up to the government to do something to cushion them. As to what exactly government will do, it will be interesting to see what they do in the coming days. For Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
And you're still watching The Pulse here on the Joy News channel. We'll be back shortly. And you're welcome back to The Pulse. Ghana has been recognized globally for its carbon emission reduction efforts and is due to receive some $4 million for that. According to the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, who made this announcement at a pre-COP27 meeting Thursday in Accra, Ghana's efforts resulted in 972,456 tons of carbon emission reductions, which have been validated and verified.
A key engagement at COP27 is Ghana's participation in the Forest and Climate Leaders Partnership, FCLP, a COP26 presidency initiative to give steam to the Glasgow Leaders' Declaration on Forest and Land Use. FCLP will create a platform for member states to scale up forest conservation and restoration actions to implement climate solutions and provide sustainable development. The partnership will also provide a unique space for intergovernmental collaboration and coordinated action with partners and stakeholders. President Akufo-Addo of Ghana will join President Biden of the United States and other heads of state and government at a Forest and Climate Leaders Summit on 7th November in Sharm el-Sheikh to officially open FCLP. Ghana's membership of FCLP is a testimony that our efforts to accelerate emissions reductions and removals through nature-based solutions has been recognized globally. We will therefore use our role as a member of the FCLP to showcase the country's climate actions and that of other countries as we synergize to work on addressing forest loss.
And JoyNews is also learning that Ghana has thus been inducted into the Forest and Climate Leaders Partnership, FCLP, which will be inaugurated at the COP27 meeting, which will help scale up action towards forest restoration and conservation. And now, the finals of the Joy FM Family Pop Quiz mini-series is happening this Sunday, and it promises to be exciting. 1 out of 5 finalists will have the opportunity to go on a 10-day all-expense paid trip to Dubai for educational conferences and other fun-filled activities. With a few days to the finals, organizers of the program indicate to us that all is set to host both the children and parents at Labadi Beach Hotel for an interesting contest. Host of the contest, Adam Naite, has been telling us what to expect.
Edition of the Joy FM Family Pop Quiz comes off, and we have the host Adam Naite with us, and she's going to tell us more about what to expect. Adam, hi.
Hi.
It's this Sunday.
Yes,
What are we to expect?
Great. So this Sunday we're selecting one child who ends up in Singapore from the 1st of December through to the 10th. And we have 5 of them who have qualified to the finals. So we have done 4 weeks of the, quiz, first, second, third, fourth, and each week we select one child who, I usually don't want to say the winner, but the child who got the most answers to the questions we asked. Okay, so every week. But the first week was interesting. We got a tie, and we actually wanted to have a tiebreaker, but the parents said no. And we should just let the 2 of them go because you don't want to break their spirits. That's how come we have 5 of them vying for that spot to go to Singapore between the 1st and the 10th. It's an all-expense paid trip. They get to attend the Young Achievers Leadership Camp. They get to do Disney. They get to have robotics lessons and then have loads of other fun activities, and they are actually looking forward to it. So we are excited about this Sunday, and it's happening. We have Labadi Beach Hotel who will be hosting us because this time round all the parents want to be there. Even for the contestants who didn't win, the children want to be there, the parents would like to be there to have the experience. So we needed to get a bigger place, so we're going to Labadi Beach 3 p.m. this Sunday to have the final edition.
Do you have any surprises up your sleeves for this Sunday?
Yes, we do, and that's why they are surprises. So we are not going to talk about it here, but definitely we have surprises. And I also want to quickly say a very big thank you to the Ghana Olympiad Academy. They sponsored this one, and we're very excited about it. And also say thank you to Labadi Beach Hotel. Whenever we want them to come on board to support, they never hesitate to say come, and we're grateful to all of them.
Is there any apple out there that any of the families can, work around, something?
The apple would just be the things they study. We've asked them to look at areas English language, mathematics, science, and social studies, and it's just going to be the same. Yes.
All right. So for first timers, maybe people who are, watch this interview and they're interested, what time is it coming off? And
it's coming off at 3 p.m. this Sunday, 6th November 2022, 3 p.m. live on Joy 99.7 FM. It will also be live on Facebook at Joy 997, and then you can catch the playback later on Joy Prime Television.
Right, so you don't want to miss this exciting edition of the Joy FM Family Pop Quiz Mini Edition. Stay tuned.
And I'm sure that you want to catch that fun on the Joy FM Pop Quiz. Of course, the fun is on. We're also celebrating another legend and also an icon in the media space. Gifty Auntie celebrating 25 years of being in the media space. And to commemorate that, she will be having a Thanksgiving service. She's joining us via phone now with details of that. Hello, Gifty. Thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. And I need to first of all say congratulations. Of course, many of us grew up watching you. I'm just wondering if you are able to share that journey with us briefly before we get into the celebrations, which is coming up.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, Gifty, welcome to the program. I was just asking, how it was for you when you were starting up.
How old was I?
Just part of the story.
I was 27 years.
Oh, amazing.
Yes, that was 1997.
Right.
Yes.
So how was it starting? Starting out as a journalist, what motivated you and why did you decide to go?
For the 25 years as a broadcast journalist, the first time I appeared on TV as a presenter. So that's but I started as an intern with BBC, put on the first ever morning show on TV in Ghana. That's the breakfast show. And then, should I say luck or blessing, I ended up being a presenter on the same day. I was supposed to be a floor manager, but I ended up being a presenter on the same day because I dared or was bold enough to approach Madame Dixie Adu, who was the main presenter, who the show was built around and built for, to give her some ideas. And she decided to let me sit on the red sofa with her. and also have a discussion on the show. That's how it started. And since then, I would dare say I've been on TV at least twice a week since then. At least twice a week since then.
For 20 years, of course, you've
25
kept that,
years.
25 years, you've kept that
Yes.
on. So how are you going about the celebration?
I started in March with the launch of 2 books, my 2 latest books, and then in May we had a conference for Muslims. That was my 10th edition of having a Muslim Women's Conference. And tomorrow we are having a worship program to thank God for how far He has brought me. The theme is, Lord, receive my gratitude. And we are having it at the Trinity Baptist Church, which is opposite UPSA, former IPS. And it's at 9 a.m. Reverend Isudanaba will be there to lead us, and we have a host of, our team, passing through to lead us through worship and praises. As I said this morning on Joy Prime, God is going to be in Ghana this weekend because we are starting tonight with Adom Praise, and then we'll continue tomorrow with my worship program, Christianity 25 years in
An
Media
amazing
worship.
weekend, an amazing weekend it will be.
Yes,
indeed.
it is amazing.
Is there anything that the general public would have to know about the celebrations, whether how they can participate, how they can also support your good cause?
Yeah, I'll be launching my foundation as well tomorrow. For 12 years, I've been running 3 charities. That's the Girl in Need Foundation, Awo Dancer Reading Project, and Happy Feet. But I've registered one foundation known as the Giftianti Foundation, which will run all these charities and other philanthropic work that I do. And so that one will also be launched tomorrow. But it's free and it's open to all. 9 a.m. we are starting. And as I said, it's at Trinity Baptist Church, which is opposite UPSA on the Medina Road. And if you want to support, you want to bring us water, drinks, and what have you, you can call 0543-618182. 0543-618182. So it's open to come wearing white because it's celebration time by giving thanks to God and calling on Him to protect us and see us through to the end of the year and the years ahead of us.
Yes, indeed, that's what we've been praying for. But just as we wrap up, there are many who still look up to you, who say, I want to be another gifty auntie. What do you say to all of the people who look up to you?
Well, I'll tell them to dare to be better and bigger and greater than Gifty Auntie. Gifty Auntie's journey has been very thicket. What has kept her going is the grace of God and determination, her boldness and daring, to stare adversity, challenges, and all the other vices of society thrown at her in the face and say that, I'm not going to give up because I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in the bigger picture. I believe in the greater good. And so I'm not giving up. I pray and hope that their journeys will be much lighter, much easier. But I urge them to keep determined, to stay focused, to be bold, and to dare to keep going, irrespective of what is thrown at them, in whatever area of endeavor that they pursue. Journalism, law, medicine, what have you, anything. It's a cleaner, a secretary, a receptionist, whatever you do, just add passion, be passionate about it, be intentional about it, be determined, stay focused, and you will succeed. Stay relevant at all times by adding value to yourself and understanding the worth of what you're doing. God bless you.
God bless you too. And that's what we've all been looking up to, the experience, the rich inspiration we all get from Gifty Auntie. She's celebrating 25 years of being in the media space. You want to support that celebration and also join her tomorrow. We're grateful for your time here on The Pulse. Okay, then, I'm on a mission to pray for Ghana's peace and stability. The words of the founder and head prophet of Christ Mercyland Deliverance Ministry in Nigeria. The renowned televangelist, Prophet Jeremiah Omotofofein, is in Ghana for 3 nights of ministration and healing service at the Black Star Square here in Accra. There's more in the following report.
It was a charged atmosphere of prayers, signs, and wonders. But this is just one of the 3 more nights of the Christian Fellowship Program dubbed Recover All 2022. Founder and head prophet of Christ Mercyland, Prophet Jeremiah Omutu Fufeyin, who is in Ghana for this year's event, tells JoyNews he is on a mission to pray for the peace of the country and also stability ahead of the 2024 general elections.
The prophets are the people who are always pray for countries. Right. So yeah, I am here in order to pray for peace for Ghana, even the forthcoming election. Okay. I'm here to now because I was told the primaries is soon, by next 2 years or so. Yes. Next year, or next 2 years, come so that the Lord going to now choose the best for you people. So I'm here to pray for peace, good health, prosperity, and also God, when I prayed, I know that God always answered. So the people that who are here and who are not here, as far as I'm here in Accra, Ghana, I am going to now pray, intervene to Almighty God in order to now bless the country, Ghana, Accra.
The man of God is inviting everyone to the program where he assures they will experience the power of God at this year's Recover All program.
I know that God is going to do something great in the life of people. If you are out there, you are barren, you have to come over. You are now facing difficulty right now in the working place, come over. Looking for promotion in workplace, come over. Then you want to go to abroad, your visa and also your document are having problem, come over. Then also those who are not married, come over. Then you are also always, every time you go to hospital for treatment and the rest, or your child is sick, sickness around you, come over. Then your dream life is not okay, come over. Then anyone that will need deliverance, come over. We are here for you with the word of God and also to deliver you in order to prophesy to your life, for you people to receive your blessings.
In the book of 1 Samuel chapter 30 verse 8, David inquired of the Lord, saying, "Shall I pursue after this troop? Shall I overtake them?" And he answered him, "Pursue, for thou shalt surely recover them, and without fail recover all."
And this week there's been some disturbances at Valco as employees there went on strike. JoyNews' Benjamin Akakpo was at Valco and now reports.
I find myself here at West Africa's only aluminium smelting plant. We know it as Valco, the Volta Aluminium Company Limited. In the background you can see the edifices which are part of this establishment. And the reason is simple. The workers embarked on an industrial strike yesterday, and the following actions, the domino effect, has resulted in a standstill to the work here. What happened? They were talking about, complaining basically about the wages paid to them, their standard of living, basically, on the back of the salaries they get. They have complained about the leadership, especially Dane Champong, who is CEO of this entity, who took office in 2014. Now, part of their complaints are that since he took office, well, he came, appointed some deputy CEOs, 4 of them. Now I'm told they are directors and there's only 1 at post, and that the managerial staff get all the boons, all the benefits. But for them, the non-managerial staff, they've been given the short end of the stick. And that is the reason you can see that everything here is at a standstill. Yesterday, per what they tell me, there was a directive from the CEO, and I'll have one of them explain to us shortly, that the plant should be turned down. For which reason, electricity supply should be turned off, so to speak. And now we hear that there are some 127 cells that need to be brought back to life. And for each one, it would cost $100,000. That would mean that for all 127, we'd be looking at $12.7 million. But why exactly are these workers laying down their tools? What more is there to the story? I am joined now by Ebenezer Asari, who will be explaining further. He is a process technician. Ebenezer, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, and you are most welcome.
Great. Yeah. So tell me, I see some other staff behind you. It means you've laid down your tools. You're still not working.
No, we haven't laid down our tools. Like you said earlier on, we started this agitation for better condition of service. Was it last week? We had what we normally call here Choboi, where the local union will call the employees who are part of the union. Then they will address us in terms of telling us what is going on between them and management in terms of our condition of service. Because I think it's every year, September, we have something we call wage opener. It's part of our condition of service. Okay. And
what happens in this wage opener?
The wage opener is a prelude to the main condition of service, where we sit down with management and then we go through all our condition of service. And then if there are any changes that need to be done, because we have to come up with what we want them to change. So it's a prelude to what? The bigger one itself, which is going to be next year.
What's your name?
My name is John Tega.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please mention your position.
Okay. I was once the union executive vice chairman. Okay. And I'm a union member as well. And I'm also a leader. Okay, for the workers. Concerning the question asked, how their involvement in the plant impact the plant. As we speak, I can mention $5 million lost in fake raw material purchase. I can also mention $3.5 million as a lost in processes of the cell line operations, and these are management decisions. And they didn't care because they have nothing to lose. Somebody's on retirement 7 years, 6 years, and is running a plant like this. All the projections they do is either 6 months, 1 year. Nobody does any project in this plant beyond 2 years or 4 years because they have nothing to lose. So for you to run almost about between $8 million to $10 million into waste, and when we are asking about $1 million, you say you don't have money, you cannot afford it.
Is that what it will take for your restoration?
Yes. All of us.
About $1 million.
And you are happy to spend between $12.7 million because that is even only the port alone. With that, we now come to the human resources, the parts, the material. So we are talking about $20 million in just restart.
In your estimation, getting this plant back on its feet would take about $20 million.
Yes, but yes, per the calculation, that's what the figures they have been telling us. And I can also assure you that tobacco workers, we are not lazy. As we speak, yesterday they didn't give us this month. They didn't give us bus to come to work. But look at the number. People took their own cars from Accra, Kaswa to come to work, to come and see what is happening. We are ready to work. The shutdown is not our doing. It is the CEO, the champion. Yesterday, even the regional minister of Accra.
And the latest development JoyNews is learning of is that leadership of the group has been meeting with the ministry in a bid to resolve the impasse. But that's all we have for you this week here on The Pulse. I am Blessed Sogah. Do log on to myjoyonline.com. And don't forget that we are all looking at that event tonight. It's a Dome Praise. It's happening at the Paris Dome. You want to be there by 6 p.m. because Travis Green will be the headlining act. But